Hey everybody, this is Adam Perry here with TrueDFS, and I am going to briefly go over tonight's NHL DFS slate using SaberSim. I'm going to run play-by-play sims and then contest sims on DraftKings, and then we'll do it on FanDuel. And we may experiment a little with some things we've been talking about how to change exposures, and if we want to do that pre-build or post-build. So we'll just see what we get. Some people were complaining, I think rightfully so, that you just get over leveraged in SaberSim once in a while to these low projected stacks. Now there aren't a ton today, but like we could see, are we just going to get over leveraged in the sims to Calgary or Detroit? Maybe we won't, but there are days where the ownership and contest sizing and pricing plays out in such a way that those become really strong plays, but you get more than you may want for your portfolio. And so then the question is, how do you adjust? Do you adjust after you build by changing your exposures? Do you use min uniques? Or do you adjust pre-build? Do you say just give the sims less Calgary and Detroit to choose from, and we'll get more higher ROI teams from some of the other combinations of those higher projected stacks. So let's just go ahead and build and see what we get to. I will say, so some people asked about hand building. If we have time, we'll maybe do like a hand build using Goldie's projections and just see. And we'll get sorry about that. Just putting the chat on. But so we'll sometimes do that. And if anyone requests that in the chat, we'll certainly take to that if we have time. So let's go ahead and build. We've got to make 2 changes per DraftKings rules. So we'll just adjust the ownership the slightest tick. And since I'm going to build for the flagship here, I was building for the single entry stuff on these streams, but I decided it's probably better to build for the flagship just because we have people playing at so many different contest sizing levels. And when you play in like the quarter jukebox, or you play in the $1.20 max, I think that's the hip check or the poke check, or if you are playing in the flagship, like those are sized a little bit more similarly than the single entry stuff. So if we build this way, it might do a better job reflecting on what you're playing and give you some idea. Last thing I'd say is check us out. I want to say as that builds, check out TrueDFS.com so you can get access to SaberSim and to the pay dirt models. I'm not going to have time to go through them today. They haven't been updated yet this morning, but they get updated early in the afternoon. And then you could kind of use those to compare the pay dirt model to the SaberSim model and try and figure out how to get, your lineups in such a way that they look good in the ROIs and the simulated ROI of both models. Really gets you to a robust sort of lineup construction that is, because sometimes we say, well, what if SaberSim's wrong? What if their projections are wrong? What if their ownership's wrong? Or what if pay dirt's wrong? Well, in this case, we try to look good in both models. And we say, well, then we have much more robust results if we can make positive EV lineups in both. So that's one thing you could do with TrueDFS. So check it out. The prices are going to be going up. So you'll get a chance to get grandfathered in at the current prices, which are about the same cost as these tools are alone. But then you also get Goldie's projections and Cheats projections and the premium Discord and a lot of other features on top of it. So anyway, let's see what we got here. If we were going just by Saber score, we're getting a whole boatload of Colorado, followed by some Anaheim. So I would assume we're getting, let's see, Anaheim 5 stack, Colorado 5 stacks, Anaheim 4-man, a little bit of diversity in the 4-man, and then all these 3s of Colorado. So in the early going, if you were to use the Saber score metric, which takes into account ownership and slate size and contest size, this is a bit of a bigger contest than we're playing though. So let's see. Let's move Saber score for the 1K to 10K entries. See if that changes it at all. Not much. In fact, we have even more Anaheim. But there's just about 3 teams it wants you to load up on. And that's if you use that metric, that's projection, ownership, contest size, slate size. But what we want to do really is run a contest sim. The contest sim is going to give us, assuming our ownership is right and that we have an idea for what the rest of the field is going to play, then that's going to tell us what these lineups would have in terms of ROI, how they would grade against the rest of the field, right? That's what a contest sim is doing. It's saying if the other, 1,000 or so people in your contest play X, Y, and Z lineups, and they play these players and these combinations and these types of stacks, then the lineup you just built here over time should have, in this case, 177.4% ROI. Now, that assumes perfect information. It assumes that our SaberSim projections and the ownership we have for the field is exactly right. And that's never going to be the case. It's never going to be exactly right. So we'll see these huge ROIs, top right, 431%, but that assumes perfection. We can't expect that. But let's see. Look at all that Detroit. Look at all that Detroit. So we have 438 Detroit lineups in our pool. And in our top 20 lineups, it's pulling 85% of them, 85% Detroit. So 17, just a ton of Detroit. You get the onslaughts, the 5-mans, the 4-mans, the 3-mans. So what kind of stacks we got? Got a few threes. We got some threes in there. I probably, I'm inclined to tell the builder I don't want those, or at least not a lot of those. But boy, that's a lot of Detroit leverage. So how do we get rid of that? So people ask this all the time. I mean, one way is you could say, look, I'm uncomfortable with that. Whoops, sorry about the fire alarm in the background. Just let that go through. All right, sorry about that. So, what you could do is you could say, just give me 15% Detroit. I don't want to be over leveraged to the lowest projected, implied total on the slate. So just give me 15% Detroit here. And I don't want to get too over leveraged on Winnipeg or Anaheim either. So I'm going to cap those and then see what the portfolio looks like. That's a little bit more healthy. I mean, you got Edmonton with a pretty high total at 45%. And then just more diversity. So that's one way to go about it. The other way is if you play with min uniques. It's kind of an old school way, but it works well. Now, the other question is, what happens if we build and we just don't have a lot of Detroit for it to choose from? Let it naturally go elsewhere. Will it put us up with some huge amount of another team, or will it be more diverse? So let's take Detroit here. Let's rebuild. Instead of getting 438 Detroit lineups, let's get a quarter of that, not even a quarter of that. Whoop. So then let's go back and rebuild with that requirement. Afternoon, Andy. What's up? Yeah, boy, the requirement's slowing it down a bit. That makes sense because we're constraining it to have no Detroit. It's got to think a little harder. That's okay. After this, we'll go ahead and do FanDuel shortly. And we're going to do the same process in FanDuel. The only difference is, every now and then, if you're playing a lot on both sites, you might want to think about how your exposures feed into each other. And because then your portfolio is really bigger. I mean, it may look like you have a DraftKings portfolio, you have a FanDuel portfolio, but those, it's all your money. Maybe different sites, but it's all one person's money. So let's run a simulation here. Let's take off our constraint now from Detroit. Now we have barely any Detroit in our pool. Take off these requirements, processing. Okay. I mean, look at the difference. Look at how much it changes it. But let's see. We didn't sort. Let's sort it. Yeah. I mean, just naturally now you just get way less Detroit. A little less Edmonton. You still get that Anaheim and Winnipeg, but more in the Carolina. And then the 15% to these others. So just taking out Detroit, like it didn't just change. We didn't take out Detroit completely, but we said just play less Detroit. Just don't have a lot of Detroit in here. Is it going to take the 100 Detroit? Is it going to, and give us a huge percent still and say you still got to play Detroit? Well, no. It finds high upside, high ROI lineups from other teams. And we get to a much more diverse portfolio here. Let's see our stack exposures. Yeah, it makes sense you don't get the onslaughts because the Detroit's cheap too. So it was easier to fit them in with 5 or 6 guys. Let's see what these 4 stacks. Bunch of Edmonton, little Detroit 4s. Just a diverse range here. And then you get the onslaught Detroit, and then the real onslaught, Utah, late night hammer. Let's go. So that's, if I was going to say, and I think I would, I don't want too much Detroit, how do I build a pool? I would just build a pool that reflects the most Detroit I want, and then let the builder choose from that as opposed to changing it post hoc. So let's go ahead and run a little FanDuel here. Don't want any minimums. What's up, Chris? As an Avs fan, I'm always a fan of less Detroit. Oh, yeah, I don't blame you. I get it. And I mean, how much Detroit can you want in this slate? I mean, SaberSim just saying, get the leverage. I mean, watch what's going to happen. We're going to be sweating it in Discord, and Detroit's just going to break the slate at 6 Central, huh? We're all going to be disappointed as DFS players and as fans, Chris. All right, we don't have to make changes on FanDuel, so let's go ahead and run it and see what we get to. See what Goldie's looking like a lot of Edmonton too, huh? There's always the McKinnon-McCarr thing. You could never play both. Bouchard, Draisaitl, McDavid's low, huh? Wow. The industry starting to sour on McDavid a little. Interesting. Wallman up there, 5,200. Not going to get the power play time, but a lot of ice time. At D with Edmonton now. Islanders looking all right. Romanov will get the playing time. Horvat. It's really spread out. Let's finish up our FanDuel. And then let's see what it's like to build an Edmonton stack, how much money you have left if we just throw it in by hand. I mean, we could look also. We all get wrecked. Yeah. We'll see, Chris. Hopefully not. I want to see a winning screenshot. I've been up and down lately, but haven't had the first place. I mean, it's like DFS first or last. So I've had some good percentile finishes, but haven't had a bink. When we build, we'll hand build for like a single entry. So, because we just saw what the Edmonton lineups might look like with SaberSim for the flagship. So we'll build something that may be a little more chalky. All right, let's sort these FanDuels by ROI. Let's ROI. So let's see who we're getting to in the FanDuel flagship. Oh, there's Detroit. Anaheim, Detroit. I mean, you might say Anaheim sucks too, but they don't have nearly as bad a total in Nashville or hosting Nashville tonight. So 50% Anaheim. I mean, I might change that to some extent. I might see what happens if we diversify with uniques. If we get 3 uniques, does that change anything? Too much. Pushes down our Detroit. 4 uniques. Let's see how far in our pool we have to go. So now it's a little healthier. And you still get some of that Detroit. What if you say, just make it 30% Detroit in our 20 lineup build. Oh, it's pretty diverse. You still have the Anaheim leverage. Let's see what the ROIs look like. Our top ROI lineup is a whopping 530. Let's hope for 1530 when the cards are flipped over. It's a pretty big drop, but we don't have to go too far. I mean, 31st lineup out of 20 to build with 4 uniques. So we've got a pretty good amount of diversity is what that says to me. So, imagine it's 10 minutes before lock. Everything's updated. The projections are sharp. The ownership's as sharp as it's going to get. This is the process. This is what I do. Let's see. Kicks yesterday asked about hand building. You could always play around with that, have fun. Say it's a single entry or something. I'm just looking at like the top values, and Edmonton's the one that's clumping the most. So let's see if we can't let's see how that fits. So it was like Bouchard. Do you want to play Bouchard and Woolman though? Draisaitl. So the thing about Edmonton, you want that power play. I don't think it's all going to fit. Let's just make sure. I don't think they've changed their power play since the Woolman thing, since the trade deadline. I think it's still the usual suspects. Yep. Can you even do it? Yeah, not do it, but can you get a goalie? Yeah. I mean, it's playable if you want to play the Edmonton power play. If you just want to play line 1, you take out RNH. Let's see what the top values are. Point per dollar. Romanov. 4,200 though. He's no cheapo. Peugeot, Pelech, Lindgren. There's Fleury. And he drops off, but not to an extreme extent. Fleury and I follow. I mean, this isn't like the strongest correlation, but it is correlation nonetheless. What if we put in? See, this is a tough matchup, so you get Hellebuck a little cheaper. You could kind of do that. Could you get Nugent Hopkins in? I mean, if you want the Edmonton power play, here's one way you could kind of do it, and then pick your last spot. But you're really diving low. But high upside, that's for sure. That's one way. Let's leave. What if we did not the power play, but we just did line 1? How doable is this? We put in Jake Wallman. That's a little more doable. What if you did some combination of the power play and the even strength? You could do that. You have a little more. Could get some of the Winnipeg guys are never bad. Who's grading the best for Winnipeg? Connor, of course. That's going to be – it's only 7,500, though, for a good goal scorer. Yeah, you can't fit him, though. You can get Velarde. Oh, Ehlers. Okay, so I didn't see this news. Let's see what it says. Undisclosed was not a nice for Thursday's practice. So, okay, so you got to watch out for Ehlers tonight. If he doesn't play, who's going to take his spot on the first Winnipeg power play? This is what time is that game? 7. Okay. Let's see if Daily Faceoff is projecting anyone to be in the first power play. So they still have Ehlers in. If it's not Ehlers, I think you get Perfetti. I think Perfetti moves up to power play 1, but maybe I follow. So just if I follow, if we hear something about Ehlers not playing and Iafallo is in there, then he's the nut value play, right? I mean, he's like single entry. You could fade him. You could always fade guys in hockey, but he'll be the top value for sure. This was like Bjorkstrand at 2,500. He was on line 3 in Tampa power play 1 at 2,500 on Tuesday. This is similar. And Winnipeg even has a higher total in this game. So anyway, there's a little look at like how you could do some hand building and how you could think about lineups if you were so inclined to do so. Remember, TrueDFS.com, you get access to all the SaberSim tools, the pay dirt models that we use sometimes to make our sort of projections more robust and get a better idea in 2 models of how teams grade out. And you could get access to all of these for not much more and than the cost of just getting them alone. And you also get the premium Discord. You get the Sheets projections, Goldie's projections. The price is going to go up now that we're adding all these tools, but you'll get grandfathered in. So keep that in mind. Like and subscribe. Keep following.